Hey, good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Doug Thompson Podcast Live. This week, I've got the honor of speaking with Mr. Not royalty, by the way. We were having this discussion earlier. Mr. Rollis Fontenot III. How you doing this morning, Rollis?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Doug?
I am well. We were talking about the originations of being named that, and his wife had the best answer when they talked about children was, I think, and we're not royalty. So I love that. I love that answer. My wife keeps me in check a lot too, so that's an important thing. And we were introduced by a good friend of mine and Rollis's as well, Miss Lila Smith, who I think the world of. She's such a great communicator, and she put us together, said, "Hey, we would be good to talk with each other." And not only that, she had trouble pronouncing your last name, and she was really surprised when I got Fontenot right away. I said, "Look, I grew up with Fontenots and all, so it's a Southeast, and we grew up not too far from each other over in Southeast Texas." So, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history.
Well, I was born in Orange, Texas. Probably 99% of your audience will probably never heard of that place. Maybe they heard of Orange, California, but not Orange, Texas, right?
Yeah, Orange County. They've heard of that, right? But not Orange County, Texas.
Exactly. So just right on the border of Texas and Louisiana. And that's where I was born and raised. And then, of course, eventually got over here to Houston, and been here ever since. So run a business here that's based out of Houston, but we actually have employees all over the world, even though it's a pretty small company. And we do recruiting. And then, of course, personal stuff. I like dancing, and I like playing some video games and watching NFL football.
All right. So how about Cage? You listen to Zydeco? Is that sort of in your repertoire? I know my mother loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to Zydeco music, I enjoy dancing to it. So if if I'm at a party and they're playing, I love dancing to it. But of course, I like listening to it occasionally as well.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. You grew up in that area. I think it's the best area of Texas because you had the best of Louisiana cuisine. You had the Hispanic cuisine of that, and you got the barbecue. I like the best place because everything was always fresh. And I remember getting shrimp off the shrimp boats.
Yeah, absolutely. There was this one place I went to. I don't remember the name of it. It was in Port Arthur, and it was you get fried shrimp. It was all you could eat. And one of my good friends, he was a mentor of mine. He wanted to just kind of treat me one day, so he took me there, and I just literally ate till I could not eat anymore. And I ate I don't know how many pounds of shrimp I ate that day, but that kind of actually got me where I don't actually eat shrimp as much anymore after that.
no Bubba Gump stuff where you have all these different recipes. There was a place down Sabine Pass we used to go to, Sarton's and all that, and Channel Inn. They had all you could eat stuff, and I was the barbecue crab thing. It's really deep fried crab, but it was just really like and I used to laugh at people because it was an all you could eat for like $20 or something. I'd laugh at people that order a plate. I'm now one of those people that order a plate and I can't even eat it all anymore.
Exactly.
So anyway, I was looking back. We shared Lamar University. We both got an associate's degree there. You did one in real estate, and you learned you learned two lessons there. One that I think is more important than the other is what you don't like to do. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot of I didn't do a whole lot of research before I picked what I wanted to learn about. And for some reason, I thought that I would be good at real estate appraisal. But it does not. It's probably one of the worst positions I could have picked for myself because I'm not super detail oriented. I'm kind of more of an idea, think out of the box kind of guy. And, that just doesn't mix with being a real estate appraiser. And then when I found out that you have to be an apprentice for like a year working full time at less than what I was making part time at the time selling cars, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this.
Wow,
so I only finished out the certificate program. I didn't even finish out the associates because of the money I was making selling cars.
Yeah. Which dealer were you working at down there? I may have bought one from you.
Mike Smith Auto Plaza. I wonder if they're still around.
Okay. Oh yeah, they are. They're still around there. I still remember that a lot. So
Hondas back then.
Yeah, no, and I did buy a Honda from them once. Much to my wife, I bought it. My wife didn't know about it. I brought it home. Hey, you got this, and she wasn't real happy with that. So, because I didn't
Yeah,
consult her.
I learned
That's
a lot.
that's another lesson I learned on that. So then you go into some financial advising, some financial assets of it, which is sales, right? So it's very much sales and stuff on that. And you did that for a while until something happened.
Yeah, I to me, the whole idea of working in financial services, the one of the things that was most attractive to me is being able to leave a profession where I was bound to work every single Saturday. I mean, if you're in the car business, you got to work Saturdays and you got to work evenings throughout the week. So,
Yeah.
financial services allowed me an opportunity to work, regular business hours, banker hours, if you will. So that was great. And I enjoyed numbers and money and all that kind of stuff, and helping folks, hit their goals and all that for financial goals. So I did enjoy it quite a bit. But then things changed because as I'm growing assets, I just had gotten a job at Merrill Lynch at the time, and really enjoyed the folks I work with. I enjoyed the job and everything. But then we had the tech bust,
Mhm.
and for about 3 years straight, pretty much every day when we go into work, the market, we know which, I always was hopeful it was going to go up, but it pretty
Yeah,
much went down most days. And when it went up, it
yeah,
went back down further. So
yeah.
it went from about maybe 13,000 the Dow down to about 7,200. So
Mhm.
it was pretty tough times. These are folks I really had built close relationships with. And here they are. They entrusted their assets, and here they see them going down. Wait a second, this guy Rollis got me into something that didn't work out too well here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a bit you're popular when things are going up and you're helping them, but I look at my financial planners and stuff now, and I'm ready. Okay, look, when is this going to? This is not making sense right now. It's all crazy talk, but so I just have to trust them that we have an exit plan.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
you had an exit plan, right? You had to sort of go on and do something else because, like I said, it was one that can't be a good environment when you lock in and you're just hoping that it turns around and you just know the news is you can only bear
yeah,
so much of that. It really starts to drag on you. And then you got
yeah.
into recruiting.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to leave my clients in the lurch, so I found a really good partner of mine that I actually entrusted all my clients to, and he did a really good job continuing to
Cool.
help them. So I didn't just leave them hanging. But one of the things that happened, during that time when the assets were getting devalued and going down, and my compensation was directly based off of that, that's when my wife made a nice little suggestion. She says, "You may want to look at something a little different."
She's a
Just
wise woman. Two good suggestions already.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Let me take a look. And then that's when I stumbled onto recruiting, working in the healthcare side, medical, and got a job being a physician recruiter. And I recruited physicians who worked on what they call locum tenens, or a short term basis.
Mhm.
I did that for about 5 years, and during that period, they promoted me to divisional director. And so I got a chance to run a team, run a full department, and we had about during that time between a seven to 10 million dollar budget they were running. So it was good times. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of benefits I got from that whole experience. I learned a lot through that experience as well.
Mhm. And that sort of sets you up for the next things that you've been doing. This is what you're doing now, and you've been doing this for what, 12 years, was it? No, longer than that.
It's been a minute or two. I left there around 2009. I originally was just going to go into sales consulting, and I did that for a little while. But one of the things I had done is I created a little website, and this little website had brought in some candidates we're still in the middle of a recession right here, right? It's 2009, 2010. That's
Mhm.
a recession, pretty hard. And so during that period of time, I created this little website, and it attracted some pretty good little candidates. And these were candidates that were a little bit outside of what I was doing before, which was good because I was still under a what do you call it, a non.
Non-compete. Yeah.
So this was a nurse director position that was totally outside of what I was doing. And I linked up with another recruiter who had a relationship with a facility, and she was able to place that nurse director. And I made quite a bit of more money than I was making sales consulting for the basically the amount of time I was spending. So it's like, maybe I need to go back into recruiting again. And so that's when I started to do some more recruiting stuff again. But initially, for several months, I actually made a couple of little, I don't know, did a couple of strange little things. I did sales consulting. I even helped with a little small company to help sell the signs that go on the side of the school buses. I even did
Mhm.
that for a little while, and I even tried to sell some medical software with a partner of mine. And all of those things, I enjoyed them and learned from them to a great extent, but they were not making enough money.
Mhm.
So I had to look at other options, and
Mhm.
that was going back into recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it sounds like, and so I sort of see a theme here all through, if I had to go to the story and we follow the arc and all that, is that you really enjoy helping people at the end of the day. And I think as you come back, monetary is always a big part of it, as you say, but when you're recruiting, you're actually helping two people. You're helping the person that is, hired you to find somebody, and then ultimately hopefully helping the person that has landed in is the right place that they needed to do. Is that fair?
Absolutely. If
Yeah.
I, there has to be a balance of both, right? I have to be able to make enough money to take care of the needs and a little bit of the wants of the family,
Mhm.
right? We live a fairly modest
You're
life.
human. You're human.
On the other side of the coin, I feel like I have to offer. I want to offer value
Mhm.
to the extent that's greater than the money that they're spending with me. I
Mhm.
always want to offer higher value.
Right.
So that's like a core value for me. If I'm not able to offer that anymore, if one of those two things suffer enough, then I've got to look at a different direction.
Right. Right.
Now, when you become an entrepreneur, there's a little bit more at stake here, right? So it's not just
Yeah.
about me anymore. I actually have a
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
so I can't make decisions just solely on my own situation. I have to look at,
Yeah.
the situation of the folks who work within the organization. So um, that's a different dynamic of how I make decisions now. But back then, it was based off of, are we able to make enough for to
Right.
to cover the obligations of our family, and then
Mhm.
are we able to offer enough? Am I able to offer enough value
Mhm.
that is more than what they're spending with me? So
Yeah.
as long as those two things were able to be in play, then I was a willing party.
Yeah. I think too many people. I've talked to a lot of people, Scott. I've been in the tech industry for a while, and you have a lot of people that tend to. It's all about the money. It's all about this, and they'll suffer through 80-hour work weeks, and they'll suffer through these other things. Which, as you're talking about, if you look at the equation, in my opinion, it puts that equation out of balance. Yeah, they're making way enough money to do this other things, but do you know your family? Do you have these other things? But that's the decision that they have to make. Sometimes sometimes they come to regret it, but that's one part of the equation. The other part is that finding that place where there's a cultural fit for you. And over time, companies change. I was at Microsoft for 20 years, and I went through like four different phases of going around, the company, how it changed and the different leaders that came on.
Yeah,
And there were times that I liked it better than others, depending where it was at. But I was sort of stuck. Okay, well, I'm doing this, and I don't. There's not anything else that sort of fills that void that comes along. How do I sort of get in here and make this? Because again, I've got to meet, quantity A, the qualification A, making ends for the family to meet, to obligations that I have. But then you find the thing where the culture fit is much more. To me, it's like a multiplier. If you find that place that you're doing what you really aligns with your core values, and you're changing people's lives for the good, you're impacting people's lives for the good. For me, that's what we were put on this planet to do.
absolutely. I believe that. And you mentioned something good about when you're in a corporation or a company, and they change out the leaders, how that really affects the culture. And I had experienced that because the company that I had left before I started this one, the leadership that I got was, I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. And it was everything was going wonderfully. And then the person who I directly reported to was always a wonderful person to work under. The issues we ran into is when the recession hit, the management above my direct report, the style changed, the focus changed, and so it started to become and feel like a different company. And so you can learn from good leaders as well as you can learn from bad ones, right? And
Yeah.
so I was able to see, in the different forms of leadership, and
Mhm.
the things I wanted to emulate and continue, and those things that I wanted to avoid at all costs. And so I feel like at our company, what we've been able to do is take a lot of the good things that I did learn from that experience,
Mhm.
and other experiences, and try and put those things in place here. But then also the things that I saw that were less than stellar,
Mhm.
we would remove those things as best we could.
Right.
And I feel like to a great extent we've been able to do that, because when we started, Doug, we couldn't hardly. I mean, the turnover was just through the roof. We would only have folks stick around for 6 months to a year and they move on. And we're like, how do we change this? And so we were able
Yep.
to look, inwardly and figure out how do we improve our culture to the point
Mhm.
now we have people who've been here for like 6, 7, 8 years,
Mhm.
or 5 to 7 years. And since we made those changes, it's been wonderful. We have great culture, very low retention, low drama. That's a big thing. I don't like
Yeah,
low.
we don't need drama. There's enough of that if you watch the news. There's too much drama as it starts with.
Exactly.
So in the analysis that you did, to make that change or transformation, was it more which had more impact? Stop doing some things or start doing some other things differently?
Some of it I didn't realize this, but some of it I had been programmed, and even some of the staff that I had that work with me, they had been programmed to accept some things that are not necessarily humane.
Mhm.
And I say humane, not that might be too rough of a word, but to work somebody as much as you can work them, and to try
Mhm.
and work them as much as you can work them, as
Mhm.
many hours as you can work them, so that they can make that extra commission check.
Yeah.
He is not you're not teaching the right kind of sustainable values, and you're not
Right.
showing the employees that you want them to be around for a long time. It should be about, how can we help you to get your work done within the amount of hours that we prescribe to work, so you can
Mhm.
still be with your family and do other stuff, not feel guilty when you take vacations, things like that. So some of the things like that's what I was really passionate about, is
Yeah.
when I saw those things existing in my previous companies, and not just the last one, just across the board. That was one thing I definitely wanted to change, and I also wanted to change. I think I also saw, being in sales, is that
Mhm.
people are expendable. Oh, let's bring quite a few, uh, salespeople in, and we'll just see who sticks. We'll see who's
Yeah.
successful, and we'll go from there. Versus trying to work with folks. First, hire better. Number one, those who
Mhm.
are actually better fit. And then also number two, how do we work with those people and not have such a high pressure environment that they're about to lose their job? Let's create an environment where, look, we're partners with you. We want to help you. We're going to get there together, and let's partner to get there. That's the type of relationship I wanted to have with employees, and that has definitely benefited. I did some things that other recruiting companies weren't doing at the
Mhm.
time, and I
Mhm.
think that helped us. Is, first of all, create a livable wage for them without making any commissions, so
Right.
that they're not worrying about, am I going to pay that next bill? Am I going to be able to pay the next bill if I get this one deal? Because if they're thinking that way, then they're not necessarily going to be thinking about what's best for the candidate, or the other person who's receiving whatever that service is. They're thinking
Mhm.
about their commission check. So I wanted to also just get that out of the way. Let's just get a livable wage that they can live off of. And then if we're going to have a commission plan, let's have that be the kind of what we call in Southeast Texas and Louisiana, the lanyap, right? The extra.
Exactly.
And then we eventually got to a point where we said, you know what, we're just going to make the bonuses extremely small, and most of their wage is going to come from their actual salary. So that
Mhm.
was one thing that a lot of organizations similar to ours were not doing. Everything was like very, very highly commission based, and
Mhm.
everything was all based on the commission.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the folks in that industry are programmed to think that that's a great way to live. And I just don't. For me, it's not for us. It's not part of our culture.
Yeah. And you hit upon. I mean, I think you hit upon a couple themes that are true in just about any sales organization and any corporation that goes on. It's very rare to find the corporation that has that sort of awareness of what keeps good people around. Is that companies, big corporations will take as many hours as you want to give them. And it is, those that don't have that awareness, and that sort of leads to the thing that you were talking about of hey, I've got to, and the incentive is making this number and getting the commission. So I will, do, and that's, we're getting back to that 80 hours a week or what have you, is simply because you're driven to do that, and that's the reward that comes from it. And I love that your awareness, of that, you're unconscious of it, because that's what it is. I mean, a lot of things we fall into these things because well, this is what we know, this is what we come, but we don't consciously think about it. And so I'm glad that you took the time to sort of reflect. And it to true to your story, it goes back to what helping people and an understanding what your values are and what it takes to to build a better community. Sort of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shifted from when I was an individual producer, all I would think about, I shouldn't say all of it, but a majority of what I would think about is how do I help this particular client that's in front of me,
Right.
the end client
Yeah.
who's taking the service, right?
Mhm.
But when you start to own a business
Yeah.
and you're building a team, you're thinking about how do I help these employees? What
Yeah.
can I do to help enrich these employees? Because if I take care of these employees, then I know the employees will take care of the customers.
Yeah. And
And so that's my thinking has shifted over the years. Now I don't actively run the actual day to day because in January I actually promoted the vice president to president of the company. So
mhm.
now I get a chance to really do what I enjoy, which is be the idea guy
Yeah.
and be kind of like a consigliere or so, if you will, like kind of a counselor person
Yeah.
that give suggestions and then offer some training.
Yeah.
But I have a very capable person. She's awesome that actually runs the day to day. So I actually have a little bit different perspective than I did even a year ago because I'm able to look at some of the mistakes I made as a president, and there
Mhm.
are plenty.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything, right? I mean, I learned that lesson a long time ago.
Yeah.
But if you can learn from them, that's the thing. So now you also are a leadership coach. So you're bringing some of these lessons that you've learned over time to help others. How's that work?
Yeah, and it's something I wanted to do more of. I haven't had a chance to do as much of it as I would have liked so far this year. But when I've had the opportunities, I really enjoy it from a recruitment perspective. The recruitment leaders, those who are running a department, that's where I can add a lot of value because I've done it for so long and I've been able to make a lot of those mistakes that we talked about earlier. But I've also had some successes too, and so being able to share some of those things and really helping and coaching some of the leaders that I work with to learn about some things that they weren't aware of when it comes to putting their culture out there to the community where people can see it, experience it, and want to work for the company. So
Mhm.
teaching leaders some things about like even social media, how to advertise some of the positions. Now I'm not showing the nuts and bolts of how to do every little thing, but just the fact that it can help them
Yeah.
in the recruitment marketing, right? And then also give them ideas on how we can do some of the videos and things that help to portray their company in what we call realistic job previews, which teaches potential applicants what it's like to work at that company. And so that's been a great joy in working with them that way. And then also they seek out other things, they ask other advice when it comes to talent acquisition and
Mhm.
attracting people on the staff that want to work for them and work in talent acquisition and helping them to grow as well. So it's been a joy. I really enjoy that work.
Yeah, it sounds like you've planted these seeds all throughout your career. Now you're sort of getting to enjoy the harvest with that. And as you step out and you're able to sort of help do these things, the things that you're teaching now, as we talk about the culture and stuff, we talked about briefly before we got on, is I think it's a generational thing that is now more important for the pool of candidates that you have out there than it was 10, 15 years ago when you had people like me, culture, I'll fit in wherever I want. It's a little bit different now. That's if you look at the order of importance to them, culture and fit and doing good for the world and environment are ranked much higher than salary even.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing that folks maybe haven't realized is that over the next 10 to 15 years, this whole thing we're talking about with diversity and inclusion and all that, that's going to be a non-issue in about 10, 15 years because the workforce is already starting to become more and more diverse to where
Mhm.
this current generation they won't tolerate working for companies that aren't diverse and inclusive.
Yeah.
And so the companies that aren't diverse and inclusive will begin to fade, and then those that are will begin to come to the forefront because they're going to be able to attract the best employees. And so
Mhm.
we're seeing that generational shift right now as we speak. And so that's been kind of interesting. So I have been able to speak at a couple of organizations about this. They've kind of brought me in to talk about it. Not that I'm some diversity and inclusion expert, but
Yeah.
but just talking about just from the nuts and bolts of business and being in talent acquisition, how it
Mhm.
is changing the
Yeah.
face of recruiting over the next 10, 15. I already see it happening right now.
Yeah. You're on the front line, and that's really where you need to get the intel from those people that are in the trenches that's doing this every day. And a lot of times leadership and stuff gets removed from that. And I think if you truly listen to the people and the culture, and look at the ones that are staying around and look at the ones that are leaving, why is that happening? Why am I getting this churn? And then adjust, like you've done several times in pivoting. We're doing something wrong, and sometimes you've done something for so long, it was okay at one time, it
Hmm.
worked, but you didn't go with the generational changes, and like I said, that transformation.
Absolutely.
So
One,
that's
one story you just made me think of. I didn't think about this before. When I wrote my first book in 2009,
Mhm,
uh, I did not want to put my picture on the cover,
mhm,
on the back cover, because a lot of authors put their picture on the back cover.
right,
The reason why I didn't want to do that is I didn't want a person who sees the book to make a judgment call before they actually read the book,
yeah,
because I was conscious about the fact that I'm African American, black male writing this
mhm,
book, and so
mhm,
I wanted to appeal to time to all, and
right,
so I purposely didn't do it for that reason. In 2021, I don't know that I would make that same decision. I probably would have. I probably would put. In fact, I know I would probably put the picture on the back of the book, so they would see who the author is. Because I do think that we're just living in a different time period. Some of those things, like you said, we did in the past. We did for
yeah,
whatever reason. We did it that way, but
mhm,
now in 2021, fast forward, we're making different decisions as things change.
yeah. Well, I think you've got, for your second book, which you've got enough information, enough experience out of the book. I think you put your face on the front of the book. Let's put it on the front of the book, and let's go from there. Because but you're right. As you go through the generational type thing, and it is, you're right. Eventually we'll get out of this because there's an awareness of it, and it's just the natural transformation of the business that goes on. I mean, you look at people that there's nobody that makes ice boxes anymore. There's nobody that makes cathode ray tubes for TVs anymore. All these things sort of evolve, and you go out to what's next and what replaces it. There's always this creative destruction, I think, is the appropriate term. But with
Yeah,
with recruitment, if I hear what you want creative inclusion and that to get and keep the good people.
absolutely. And like I'll give you an example. You remember this in around 2000, early 2000s to around 2010. You had a lot of companies were trying to decide whether they wanted to be on the web or not. If it was worth it to
Yeah, as a
have
fact.
a website, right? And so there's companies still trying to figure out in 2010 whether they're going to have a website or not. But that's just a foregone conclusion. You got to have a website. Now, are you on social media?
Yeah.
That's becoming a foregone conclusion. So things that were new to us back then, we're taking for granted now. So that's why I say, like, diversity inclusion. That's going to be kind of like basically like having a website
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
companies that it's not going to be a new bold thing anymore in about 10 years or less is what I'm
All right.
saying.
So here's my last question for you. So being that you have the crystal ball and you're the Karnak, the Magnificent, because I know you're old enough to remember what that is, or who that was. What in 10 years? What is the? You got social media, you got websites. What's the next thing? What happens after that?
Well, first of all, I don't have the crystal ball.
I know.
um, I'll run the other way from that. But I will say this in terms of 10 years from now, AI, that's the thing. AI, it's become so we're become so used to it, we don't even realize it's there. Like when we're scrolling through LinkedIn or Facebook, that's AI that's running that. When
Mhm,
we're listening to the next song on our track on music or Amazon Music or one of these devices, it's AI that's guessing what we want to hear next.
mhm,
So AI is going to be that's going to be the thing over the next 10. It's going to be so involved in the fabric
mhm,
of our lives that it's not going to be a new thing anymore. It's just in fact, people probably won't even be talking about it anymore because it's going to be so ingrained in all that we're doing with when it comes to work, when it comes to the things that we do, and even in our personal lives, that we
mhm.
use every day. So I think that's the next big thing is how much AI is being used. We're already seeing it in healthcare, and we're already seeing it in recruiting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the next big thing.
Well, let's hope that it's AI for good, because there's always that dystopian view of the world with, we got Skynet and you got the other, and the AI is out of the bag. You can't stop it now. I mean, it's out. So it's now, how do we best use it? And I think if we are aware of it, then we can make sure that it goes towards the good, that it's not used for bad. That's a whole other side of my life, of the AI and the bad things and the good things.
And, I think that, to me, the more that those of us now who are aware of it become more aware of it, we can be some of the folks who help make it better.
Mhm.
So that it is operating in a better way, because you do have a very small demographic of people who know how to do it, and whatever programs or program are going to reflect that small demographic. And so the more different types of people who get involved with it, whether it's age, race,
Mhm.
gender, whatever the case is, it's going to make that technology that much better, because it's going to fit
Yeah.
more people.
And that's where diversity, inclusion, I mean, it needs to be factored into that as well. The early failures of that, of like not recognizing a face. And if you were like you, it would have a harder time recognizing the face than me, simply because of the technology and the way it was trained. So I look
Exactly.
forward to joining you on that trip, Rollis. So I think, there's some things that we could do together to do that. So I look forward to that. So how do people get a hold of you? One, for some lanyap recipes, maybe, and two, for how to get a hold of you just in general.
I'm not real hard to find. You can find me on LinkedIn here. Of course, you can just, if you did a little, you probably got some kind of link somewhere, but
In the show
hrmaximizer.com.
notes. Mhm.
Yeah, that's the name of our company. But yeah, I'm not real hard to find. Type in my name, I should be able to come up, and hopefully you don't see too much bad stuff about me.
I've not yet found any of that, and I owe Lila Smith a lot of kolaches. That's her weakness for connecting us together.
Awesome.
So Ross, thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Appreciate you, bud. Have a good one.
All right, bye.